If you sugar or do sex work, this video is for you. It's part 2 of a 2-part series inspired by the inspiring Ms. Michael Melrose, aka Sexwork CEO, hashtag SWCEO. She asked on her Twitter account, when a client session turns into a trauma dump session, how do you handle that? Or if those were not her exact words, it was something like. So this video is about the second of the 2 huge ideas that will help you to shift from surviving to flourishing. And it begins with a story. Once upon a time, there were these 2 women, and they both did escort work. Some stripping and some camming for the right clients. And they each had their own condo in Miami. It had a downstairs and an upstairs. And one day, the first woman, she was carrying her laundry basket on the ground floor when she walks by her TV room and sees her 2 8-pound hand weights in front of the TV. And the hand weights belong in the fitness room upstairs. So her reaction began. She thought to herself, I don't want to carry these upstairs. I'm already carrying this full laundry basket. It would be too heavy. It would be too much effort. I'll just leave them. I'll get it later. And then she started fuming to herself. Yet again, my sister left my stuff in the wrong place. She always leaves my stuff out. She disrespects my stuff. She disrespects my home. I'm going to make her carry the hand weights back upstairs when she gets back. I'm not going to carry those up the stairs. Meanwhile, at just the same moment, the other woman, who also happened to be walking downstairs with the laundry basket in her arms, and when she spotted her hand weights on the floor in front of the TV, she thought to herself, if I put those on top of my laundry basket and then take the stairs 2 at a time, that would count towards my butt toning regimen. And I might even follow that up with a set of squats when I get to the top. Now, the difference between these 2 women's mentalities is not about prioritizing exercise or positivity or making lemons out of lemonade or looking at the bright side of things. Their responses reflect the difference between a mentality of survivorship and a mentality of flourishing. One of the traits of a survivor's mentality is wanting to maximize effortlessness. For survivors, the important thing is to maximize effortlessness, both physical and mental. And that's a valid goal because by definition, a survivor has good reason to be on the lookout for overwhelm. Overwhelm is the experience of having a reaction that exceeds one's ability to cope, one's ability to keep the threat management part of the nervous system off and to keep the chill part of the nervous system on. So, a survivor, because she has good reason to be on the lookout for overwhelm, that in her life she had valid reason to dread being overwhelmed, being on the lookout all the time. Maybe being on the lookout has become a habit. It's become a reflex to not only be on the lookout, but to be on the lookout for overwhelm, but also to be seeking a less effortful way of thinking and acting. Because one's got to conserve one's energy, because you don't know when is the bad thing going to happen. When might I have to cope with overwhelm? The thing is, being on the lookout for threat, for the possibility of overwhelm, itself takes a lot of energy. And it prevents you from fully rejuvenating. It's kind of like breathing through a straw. So, survivors, they can be numb. They can visit no pain land temporarily, but that is not the same. It feels good, it feels like relief, but it is not the same as flourishing. And as soon as they sober up from their visit to no pain land, they are still back on the lookout for overwhelm. They're still dreading overwhelm, and they're still prioritizing trying to maximize the effortlessness of each day. So, in contrast, a flourisher, the second woman in the story, is trying to maximize not effortlessness, but rewardingness. She is trying to become her future self. And for flourishers, more rewardingness is worth more effort. And where does the energy come from to make that effort? It's freed up because a flourisher is neither spending that energy on vigilance for a threat, nor are they breathing through a straw. And so they are able to rejuvenate because they are able to self-regulate. They don't need to conserve energy, so their energy is abundant. They don't need to conserve energy because their energy is abundant. They aren't going through each day trying to do it the same way that they got through the previous day. Instead, they're spending each day in trying to become their future self. They are deliberately observing the results of their approach to things. What is their regimen? What results do they get from that? And then in light of those results, they modify their approach to the next day. It's kind of like folding a paper airplane, throwing it to see how it flies, observing the result, and then refolding the piece of paper, giving it another throw the next day, see if it flies better. That they are doing that deliberately with their own about their own behaviors, about their own attitudes, about their own psychology. So, a final word about that. If you want to become a flourisher, it does not work, in my experience, to start by saying, I'm going to deliberately maximize rewardingness of each day in my life. In my experience, you have to begin by no longer experiencing every day as potentially overwhelming. And the only way to do that is to resolve and remake the meaning of your prior experiences of overwhelm. And if you're curious about that, see the first video in this series. I'm Dr. Franklin, the sugar psychologist, the concierge consultant for sugar babies and sex workers who want to flourish.